Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Beyond the Listing, where we discuss the business of real estate outside of the listing environment. I am your host, Jeremy Medor.
And I'm Danielle Downs.
And today we are actually not going to be talking to a realtor. So we are going to be talking to a wonderful stager duo team. More than just the two of them. They have employees beyond that as well. But they've grown in a lot of parallels to Medor Photography. Yeah. I met them close to 12 years ago.
I say right, like almost at the beginning, right? With
the
both of them?
Before the beginning.
Okay.
So while I was still employed in the corporate sector, weird to say that, corporate world, as it were.
Sector.
I met them at a Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce networking event, and they were introduced to us. I was introduced to them, rather, by a mutual friend of ours at the time, out of Haverhill. Her name was Shelley Rushton, and Shelley really championed my going self-employed, and she kind of showed me how it was possible and encouraged me and just kind of gave me that little nudge that I needed. And it's not something that I talk about very frequently, but she shared with me a book called Who Moved My Cheese? And it's just obviously an analogous book where, they just talk a little bit about how as humans, we gravitate to what we're accustomed to, the comforts and everything. Yeah. But when someone removes the comfort from your life, instead of looking at that as a problem, look at it as an opportunity.
Okay.
And that really happened, almost 12 years ago for me, where I was, not happy with what I was doing on a daily basis. And incidentally, our guests today, we really have a conversation about fulfillment and happiness and how that all goes hand in hand. So it's, it was a really inspiring conversation, and it kind of like the cherry on top of sorts, where 12 years later, here we are sitting at a table talking about that journey.
Must be weird, like wild almost, It
is. It is, because not often are the people that are at the end with you. It's not even the end. Jeez.
Well, whoa, slow down.
Not often do people who are at the beginning of a process end up with you still 12 years later.
Yep.
Right. And, that can be in any area of your life, really. Friends come and go, relationships start and stop. Yep. And even children, they're 18 years that they're home generally, but eventually even that changes. Right. And so it's really nice to reconnect and kind of not necessarily like wax poetic or, rose colored glasses, but more along the lines of what did we learn along the way? Who are we today versus where we started? So it's a really important topic of conversation. And I think that other businesses can really derive value from that conversation. So I really hope that this reaches more than just realtors. Yep. And obviously that's something that we're trying to work on with getting an audience that is outside of the realtor side of life. So, but how are you, in what ways in your own life have you experienced something similar where people that started with you earlier on are still around now?
Friends for me, I have a really good core group of friends that I have been friends with from age of 3 or even like 15 and 16.
Sure.
And like, those are the girls, that you see me out with. And I'm still like, we make it a point actually to like get together once or twice a month. We try to go for twice. It's hard with kids and jobs and life, obviously.
But even once a month, that's a pretty good routine.
Yep. And we do it. I mean, whether it be, a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon or just something. Yep. We just make it a point that like, hey, it's been a month. Yeah. We got to get this back on the schedule. Sure. Like we're going out actually tomorrow night because it's my friend Allie's birthday, and we always do the birthdays. Nothing crazy, nothing special. Just we get together.
Yep. But that in itself is the special.
It is. And I actually feel it when we don't see each other for a full month or even maybe a little bit longer. Yeah. Like I feel it. I miss my friends. I miss that conversation.
Connection.
The conversation that you have with your girlfriends. I don't know how it is with guys and guys, how they, but
It's actually not different if they let it be.
Well, exactly.
And that's the hard part.
That, has to change with a lot, I
think. Really does.
Because having those conversations it fills my soul. Like, I'm like, oh, I needed that so much. And nothing could be wrong. We just go and you talk about everything. And
it's not that you necessarily even have to offload drama.
Right.
It's just that you have to offload, period.
Right, exactly. And we've been there since, children. So it's like before kids, before marriages, before divorces, before everything. Yep. And we're still seeing the changes within those people. And
you're giving each other high fives.
Yeah. Like, hey, we're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's important. That's an important, for lack of a better term, routine or ritual to continue to go back to. Yep. Because by doing that, you're making sure that you're carving out time for yourself. Yep. You're making sure that you're prioritizing your social life to a point where it's not just you. Yep. It is a little bit more of a village, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, so with our guests today, that's exactly the kind of experience that they've had. Yep. And we really got into it, and I'm
that's awesome.
Anxious for you all to watch. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Beyond the Listing. I'm your host, Jeremy Medor, and today I am sitting with
Liz Larson
and Jan Poulain of Perfectly Placed for You Home Staging.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today. I am really looking forward to our conversations.
As are we.
So, no, I think that we can just hop right into that because you and I were talking prior to recording that our business models have massively changed over the years based on market demands and how we, were perceiving our values at the time. But over time, confidence has increased in both the products that we offer as well as our own capabilities and how that has shaped or influenced our behavior in our own businesses. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And especially what's unique here is that there's two of you guys, and not only is that unique to our episodes where this is the first two guest episode, but also because you have differing points of views, I'm sure, in your own business model. And not necessarily like conflict, but more along the lines of balance that you guys try to achieve on a constant basis.
Absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about that growth journey, and I don't care really who starts.
Go ahead, Jan.
Well, as you mentioned, we were talking a little bit about, things shifting. And Liz and I were having a conversation on the way here about, when you've got experience, you kind of analyze your feelings a little bit more and allow yourself to have an inner conversation about what's working and what's not working, as opposed to maybe when I was younger, my life was a little more chaotic and I wanted certain experiences, so I wasn't really listening to my inner voice all the time. Sure. And for our business, it's been very, very important to us to remain friends for so long and have all of those other pieces working together where we listen to each other as well.
Okay.
So
there's an honor and a respect there, and an integration with those thought processes and mentalities, so that you are trying to listen to your own mind and your own decision making while also being very considerate of other people's, specifically with Liz.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, without that, we still wouldn't be together after it's 17 years this year. So
I know, right? Do you remember when you first walked in?
I remember when I first walked in. That was almost 12 years ago.
Really?
I'll be self-employed for 12 years in November 1st.
Okay.
And it was prior to becoming self-employed because right. Shelley Rushton, I hope that she gets to see this.
I do too.
Shelley Rushton had introduced us, at the Greater Lowell Chamber. Yeah. And I believe it was the Radisson over on Greenleaf Drive in Tewksbury.
That's where we were.
Met the first time. And that was first of many events that I had attended for the chamber. And I immediately enjoyed speaking to both of you. And the reason for that was because you gave me the time of day and you didn't make me feel like I was just another person. You seemed to have this aura about you that you cared to hear more.
I think we both genuinely are that way. And I think that networking is always a little bit interesting and you're not really sure what's happening. So the fact that we just go into it with our own genuine heart and just wanting to meet people.
Right. And openness.
Yes. And I really do believe that the fact that Jen and I are a team, that actually encourages it even more, because we're walking into the events together. We're driving to the events together. Sure. So we're encouraging each other, and then we're just being ourselves.
Got it.
And to kind of talk upon before what you were saying, how we, help each other out. That's just what we do every day. Mm-hmm. It's just,
you're becoming each other's support system, or you have become each other's support system professionally and also relationally.
Exactly.
And that's an important dynamic, because you're not talking about a transaction-based mindset. You're talking about a mindset that's more about the whole person, and you're taking into consideration a lot of elements in life that influence the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis, with not just your business, but your own personal life.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that.
I would think that sometimes we might forget. I think there's moments.
I think that's human nature.
Right. I think there's moments where we're getting so involved in the actual job and what we're doing and how we're getting there.
You're up to your neck and stuff. Yeah.
We're very fortunate. Yep. I mean, we get to then go back to the end of the day, and it's like, what do you want to do for dinner?
Sure.
Well, as you know, and we've talked about this before, it's like the way that I had started the business in 2007, but Liz was always right by my side helping me. Mm-hmm. And as it continued to grow, I really needed her help more and more. And I really thought it would be beneficial to us to be business partners versus just, Liz working with me. And so, we ended up... it took quite a few years to convince her, because she didn't want to ruin our friendship over working together. But when we finally came together and did that, we promised each other that it would always be something that we enjoyed.
Okay.
Not something that, and we're really, I think that's kind of part of the secret sauce, it's just making sure that we're always enjoying. Okay, not every minute is enjoyable, let's face it, but I think we revisit that often.
The general trajectory needs to be one of maintaining that idea.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about a strategy that you guys have employed in the past, where you catch yourself not enjoying something for a not insignificant amount of time, and then you pump the brakes and you say, okay, we need to reassess some things. Has that occurred in the past, and how did you handle it?
I would say that there's been a couple of things. One of them might be just a role that we take part of in a job. Mm-hmm. And if we're finding that it's something that isn't very satisfying, right? Yeah. We simply just allow the other person to be out.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
Good.
I mean, not that we give up, not that we just let it go.
No, but
when we first started, we literally did that. We literally kind of thought about what would we want to do and what would we not want to do.
Yeah, it's called job design.
And we put that on a piece of paper and asked each other if that role was okay to let go of.
Yep.
And if it wasn't, what are we going to do with it?
Yeah. That's really good, because honestly, from any relationship standpoint, whether it be a personal relationship or a business relationship, even with a child.
Do you want to wash the dishes or not?
Correct. And if it just kind of de facto becomes someone's job, but it had never been communicated, that can become danger territory for even for couples. So
we've actually carried that concept over to, we have team members that work with us periodically, and it's the same exact model.
Yep.
Exactly.
If you do not like this particular type of job, please do not do it.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny because we recently went through our team reviews just last month, and one of the questions that I do ask my people is, our people is, are you enjoying what you're doing?
Yeah.
And if not, how can we modify that job so that it becomes enjoyable,
right,
or at least becomes less unenjoyable? right? And there's some factors, of course, that we can't get around. Like, for example, we can't get around the fact that we have to drive to all of our listings. I don't have a teleporting machine yet. And if anybody's working on one, please let me know.
Right. Or a limo driver.
Yeah. Or well, honestly, there was a point in time when I seriously considered having someone drive me around while I was photographing so that I could also manage the business in between.
Absolutely. Because you can't be driving and doing all the other things that are happening.
No.
Right.
And so obviously we ended up, hiring administration that did a job in such a way where that load came off of my shoulders almost entirely, which, was obviously a good long-term decision. But while you're going through your day-to-day life, assessing what's not bringing you joy, not to be Marie Kondo, kind of really, unpacking that and saying, what is it? Why is it not bringing me joy? How can it be modified? Or who can I give it to?
Right.
Or who would it bring joy to if they had this job, right? Because there is a job for everybody, and there's everybody for a job. Right. And I do believe that firmly. And that's why when somebody, comes up to me and says, Jeremy, I'm really not enjoying this, I'm probably going to end up looking for another job, I don't argue with them. And it's not because I dislike them or whatever. It's just it has to be a fit.
It has to be a fit.
And if that relationship isn't a fit, and that doesn't matter if it's a job or a client relationship or a partnership, if it's not a fit, don't try to put a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, I think we were kind of learning that going into business, where saying no was sometimes very difficult.
Oh,
right?
Yes,
I know that's a big one for you.
Yeah, very big. It's become easier in the past 4 years.
And I think we were once told the bigger
you're like that too.
She is. We were once told the bigger you get, the bigger the problems.
What's that?
We were once told the bigger you get, the bigger your problems.
It can be.
And I think it depends on where you are in your business when you hear that.
Correct.
So I think if we just go back to what our goal is all the time, then and again, because we bounce things off of each other, it might not be the same moment, it might not be that, it might be a week later, but we still have that opportunity to kind of reassess.
Yep. What you're talking about is staying true to your core values.
I hope so.
Well, and it gets complicated because not only are we business partners, we're friends too. Yep. So it's, you're trying to make sure that you're, again, taking care of all the human parts. And then there's the, more
so I guess when the business gets
stuff.
big, like we've been together for 17 years, right? So our kids have grown.
Yeah, you guys have gone through a lot of life changes.
Family life changes.
Yep. College, graduations.
Yep.
We've always felt like it's a huge advantage that there is more than one of us because, if she's going through something, I'm going to jump in and fill in the spots that are, that's difficult. And
really
then she does the
commendable.
same to me.
Yep.
But like you and I have that in common of letting, like, I, started this business, so I felt very, very attached.
Sure.
And I think 2024 is a really great year for me because I'm very much working on having, letting go and having faith in all the wonderful team members that have been attracted to us.
Right.
And letting them do their thing.
Yep.
And, it doesn't mean, we always say to the people that we bring on, listen, doesn't mean I'm not going to get in there and work in the warehouse and restock. I'll do whatever it takes because things need to happen and we all wear multiple hats. Yep. Nobody's, we're working on a job. Design is a very subjective thing, staging. So, I might really feel strongly about a certain particular piece of furniture in place, but I am so glad that I have other team members to step in and maybe look at it a little differently. Sure. And then we're always open to each other's feedback, because it only makes it better.
Yeah. If you're truly working as a team versus just simply being a boss, right?
Yeah. I've never seen myself that way.
Whenever our own employees, they say, oh, my boss, I'm like, oh, don't use that word. That's such a bad 4-letter word for me. And only because it's not so much that, I want to be your friend. It's more along the lines of, I want to be respected, but on my own merits, not because of my position.
Yeah. And
and
that you're collaboratively building this thing together.
Correct.
And it's so great. Anytime somebody on a job recently called me the boss lady, and I didn't know they were referring to me.
Oh,
I was like, and the boss lady, here she comes. And I was like,
who's behind me?
I was like, yeah, it was so odd. But I never see myself that way. And anytime we get great feedback from a client, we share it right away with our team. And we're the first to tell them, thank you so much. We appreciate that. But you know what? We couldn't do it if we didn't do it all together.
It's true. The success
and it's not even
thing.
just the people on the job. The team is Medor Photography. The team is our business coach. The team is our accountant, our Barnaby's. It's everybody.
Yep.
The homeowner themselves. They're part
It's
of our
your whole
team.
sphere.
It really is.
Yep.
And we 100% feel that without all of us in place, we can't do it. We just can't. I mean, Home Goods is part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a little bit more transactionally versus relationally, right? Because they don't really know you, right?
Well, they know our
Although I
account.
think they think
Right. Oh,
I think
exactly,
they see us
exactly,
coming
right.
with the giant
Order.
cart of things. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so obviously there are going to be relationships where you're a line item, right?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of, I think, the nature of corporate America, right? But when you're talking small business America, when you're talking about Main Street America, we really need to tap into the who that we're working with, and why why they resonate with us and we resonate with them. Because if there's not that, I guess, congruency between those individuals, if they're not really coming together and having a relationship that works both ways effectively, it's a relationship that's destined to fail.
Right. When earlier you touched upon, or we were talking about saying no, and we were talking about possibly a team member wanting to leave, but a client might not be a good fit.
It's the same thing.
And
100%.
And we didn't really
it's not
understand that
personal.
in the beginning.
Right.
But
Well, you're so anxious to grow your business. You're like,
Sure.
yes, I'll do it.
Yep.
I wasn't resting at all because I was just totally all in. And Liz was like, listen, you need your weekend time. And it was such a fight for me. I just was willing to jump anytime. And, she's taught me over time that, you need to recharge your battery. You have to. And I'm so grateful, honestly. And just, I think also another huge challenge with that kind of the way that we developed our business kind of organically over time and the way we view relationships. We're very personal with people, and there's a price to be paid for that. I hope it never goes away because that's who we are, and it's part of enjoying our lives. But you also have to understand too that it's a business and you need to make money.
Yes.
And so people often take advantage or sometimes take advantage of your personal way if you're not clear.
They can, if just like are we enjoying what we're doing, right? If you have this meeting with yourself or even between yourselves, right, where you're like, do we really enjoy working with this client? And what is it that they're bringing to our table and what are we bringing to theirs? Is there a real relationship here or is this just a one-way street, right? And it's really important to have those conversations, and it's hard to have those conversations.
It's really hard for me.
It's so hard because you have to first learn to love yourself enough to be able to say, no, that's not for me. And you also have to speak the words that are uncomfortable.
Yes.
But the truth is, and I was just talking to our previous podcast guest, the sooner you deal with those uncomfortable conversations, the more everybody wins faster.
Totally, because you're honoring yourself.
Correct.
And it comes with experience and confidence and all of those things.
It's not something that just shows up overnight.
Oh,
No.
and
It's an arc.
it comes more naturally in some people than others.
Yep.
Other people, depending on
talking
the.
about?
I don't.
No, we all have our own speeds.
Yeah.
We all have our own speeds.
But and anyway, it's a way of just kind of, instead of what we were talking about again earlier was like you would push those thoughts out of your head just to get to the whatever it was you were trying to do, instead of stopping and listening to that.
Yeah.
And
I think though sometimes when our industry is so fast paced, right?
It is.
They want it immediately.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that's another reason why we're doing that to ourselves.
Yeah.
That we're pushing things away because we're just trying to really get to that finish line.
Yep.
So, and then if you're that exhausted,
Just a little faster, just a little quicker, just a little sooner.
And then you found out that it really wasn't necessary all along because nothing went live for a while later.
Yeah, there is that, but without going down that path too far.
No, exactly.
It is how we allow ourselves to respond to that, and the guardrails that we put. We had a guest on a few months ago, and what she was saying was a little bit shocking to me to hear from a realtor of putting up those guardrails at like the first point of contact, where she doesn't answer her phone after 6 o'clock.
I remember saying that one.
Right.
Yeah,
And
setting expectations.
Right. Setting expectations right out the gate.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, especially when you're new to the business, where you don't even know what expectations need to be set.
Exactly.
And so you learn those expectations that do need to be set over time. But sometimes a lot of times you've already developed these client relationships that you want to maintain.
Yeah.
So that was the old set of expectations, and they're kind of grandfathered in, so to speak.
Yeah.
But this is my new set. And then that person gives you a referral because of your old set of expectations. And you're like, oh no, what do I do? Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting dynamic. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
And again, that's why 2 is so great.
Yeah.
Because I can feel one way, I can be running in one complete direction, and then she'll say, "But what about this?" And then we kind of come back together. I mean, it would have been really hard to do that all solo.
Yep.
In the beginning, like you did.
Yep.
You had Jen, of course. So,
Yeah. So the difference there though is that from a business standpoint, Jen looks at things more from a does it seem fair, right? And so Jen highly champions respect for me and my time in ways that I don't, and so she's really,
wow, sounds familiar.
yeah, sounds familiar,
does
right?
sound familiar.
And so from a protector standpoint, and she'll listen to this because she listens to our podcast episodes, and I think that
Hi, Jen.
I think it's about darn time that I should give a shout out to my wife
so
here.
Too.
And the truth of the matter is, even if she may not be working on the business with me
Side by side. Like
right, she's working on me working on the business.
Absolutely.
Right. And in
perfect
ways,
partnership.
Yeah.
in ways that aren't tangible on a daily basis, but if you stop and go, just like I am literally right now, where I'm realizing some of this connection just from what you guys are talking about and how that applies to my own life. There's a lot of that going on behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, just like a lot of people don't see what's going on behind your scenes.
Yeah.
right?
So, I mean, I think that's our relationship as well. I think that in our business, a lot of people see Jan as the front person, where she's literally walking into a property, she's meeting the client, she's meeting the realtor, she's continuously, being that point person. And I might be what they call back of the house, my old school field. And I'm doing things that people might not see, even Jan might not see.
Yep.
But
she knows.
But of no less value.
But understands that
without it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Without it would fall apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she says it all the time.
Yep.
All the
Totally.
time.
And if I didn't have Jen, so she obviously handles our social media account for Midrow Photography, but she does way more than that. She champions the cause of our brand, our value.
Yeah.
She helps communicate using her own words that she brings up a lot of times instead of, having she doesn't have a menu of phrasing that we use as a company. She understands the voice.
And I think what's so cool is that her voice is coming through as a real person.
Correct.
Versus the world of staging talk and the world of photography stock, right? There seems to be these phrases that everybody wants to use all the time.
It's so easy to get caught up in the noise of all that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm always looking for but what is it? What's the real value? As in the personal value, as in the feel good value.
Yep.
Like that's what I love about it all.
Yep. But that's also where the rawness comes from, right? And so if the feel good value is super easy to like systematize, I think, generally, if you're looking at it on an advertising and marketing standpoint, because there's a lot of cliche terminology to use. You can even implement AI features, ChatGPT and stuff, and have them write articles for you, or even just ad spaces for you. But the truth of the matter is, the human element, when it's missing from that, the personality, when it's devoid of personality, and the personality has just become a system instead, right. That is, it's not really tangible, but it's tangible. It's like that weird, something just seems to be missing.
It's a feeling.
It's like when you walk into a room that's not properly staged and you're like, all it really needs is that.
It's funny. I was having a conversation with one of our team members the other day, Karen. Karen's so awesome. Really
She's
great.
been with you for a while.
Yes.
7 years.
I know. And I was just trying to count all
as
the
long
years.
as
Yeah.
Keith.
Yeah. 7
And
years.
so, Karen's like, we're talking about things we notice. Like, so we were coming into a house, not the house that we were going into to consult in, but we were looking across the street, and we like to paint color on a garage door. And I was like, I like that. I think that combination works. And we were talking about it. She goes, I walk around my neighborhood and I think about different things I would do, or, and I do the same thing. And it's like a very subconscious thing, like you walk in a room and you're like, oh, I like that. Yeah. That grouping of art. I wish it were placed.
We'll walk into a restaurant or even a coffee shop, and the two of us immediately were like, "Oh, that was a mistake."
Or we'll stay in hotels together.
Yes, and then that's a popular one.
Rearrange their accents.
Oh my God, we have literally. This is a little embarrassing, but we have literally gone. That painting is not where it should be.
Right.
We'll shift something over to make it work.
Yep. Yeah. So Jen and I have been consciously carving out time for just the two of us, and leaving it. Samantha's old enough to watch the kids for the weekend, that kind of thing. And we don't go too far. It's usually only about a half hour to an hour away. Yeah. So we're nearby enough if something happens. And I've developed some good relationships with Airbnb and VRBO owners up in Maine, doing their photography kind of in trade for, or nice. at the regular rate, and then I pay them the regular rate for the rental. We have a good relationship there. But there was this one rental that we were just at this past 2 weekends ago. And Jen and I were sitting there. This was early in the morning, enjoying our coffee on the couch, looking into the dining room. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, my eye starts twitching. And Jen's like, can you shut it off? I'm like, no, I can't. Sorry. And we're just kind of sitting there discussing the challenges that I saw, not necessarily from a staging perspective, but from an architecture standpoint. Because obviously that's what we look for, the lines and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was just starting to critique the work that had been done to this place. It was an old camp that had been renovated very heavily in I consider to be a very good way. There's bad renovations and good ones, and it's hard to kind of tell the two apart photographically, but then when you walk into the space, it's pretty,
you feel it. Yeah.
It's pretty palpable. But yeah, we were just sitting there and I was just like, it was a passing moment. And so it's like, 5 to 10 minutes in, I said, all right, I'm done. Good. I said my piece, moved on. But no, I can sympathize with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying we're like, we don't literally walk in purposefully to critique, but if there's something that we're like,
just calls out to you.
It's like on the peripheral of your, you're like, yeah. But it's just,
something's not right.
It's so fun. And it's, and it's obviously it can be subjective. So, people interpret things differently.
For sure.
It's fun, actually. I love it because it's like a puzzle,
But that's the art of it.
I enjoy it, yeah.
I think that's the other thing that brings us a little bit closer together is that, without knowing it, like Jan came into this job, this business, with an eye and with school, with a real understanding of paint colors and such, where I did not.
Okay.
I would be in the warehouse.
Formal training.
For Jan.
Yeah.
And for myself, it was more of learning to go. And again, my role wasn't necessarily to be a business owner. It was to just assist and help.
Got it.
Being in the warehouse, not that our lighting is amazing, but even if it were, I wouldn't be able to distinguish brown, black, and
Espresso,
which I prefer to drink. And yes, and I would, and there'd be these like, how about this?
Yep.
That's not brown, and I'm like,
come on, Liz.
I think it looks good.
Yep.
It's really funny how different people read color.
Oh, for sure. My daughter's convinced that she has a purple hat. I'm like, it's mauve.
But today we're on a little bit closer on the page.
Sure.
On the color wheel spectrum.
Yep.
Going back to where we first started, I really do feel as though I'm not the person that goes into the homes and gives a staging consultation, but if I needed to, I could do it.
Yeah, well, you're capable. It's just not something that
absolutely capable.
You're aiming at.
It's just, it's not a role that I find myself enjoying.
Yep.
And so
why do it?
Why do it when there's experts doing it?
Absolutely.
I remember you saying these words. Clients were wanting Jan to go to a consult, and they were wanting you to be their photographer.
Correct.
And we were growing at the time, both of us.
Yep.
And Jeremy was not the person to go to the job. And I remember you saying, I forget if it was Keith, I forget who it was, but that, no, you really do want them. They're more qualified at the moment to do this particular line of work than I am.
Correct. And that's actually even further spread since me taking primarily a back-end role, where I would say it's not that my skills are necessarily poor or not up to snuff. It's that I am not as involved and therefore not as focused on that one thing.
100% accurate. So we could move this into now speaking about another person that works with us, Julie. So I was more involved in the warehouse, making sure things were put away in the right place or determining where they needed to be so that they would get pulled easier, they wouldn't get damaged.
Yep.
Julie has exceeded my role and my expectations.
She's just a master organizer. Like she's very able to just zero in on what would make it function better.
So
she finds fulfillment in that.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
She's so good at it.
Whereas you might just be like, I don't want to do this ever again. Right?
Oh, how did you guess?
Yeah. So now it's more of like, let's ask.
Because we're cut from the same cloth.
Talk to Julie first. Julie will know.
Yeah.
I can refer to her versus me bringing it to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you and Julie have that synergy where you work well together.
But again, I would take her advice over mine in a heartbeat.
And there's nothing bad about that at all.
It makes me feel amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
And think about the load that takes off of you, so it frees you up to do the thing that also makes you feel
But it's
I am
so cool
so
to listen to
confident.
the two
So
of you
confident.
talk back and forth about it too. And I just step out of the way now. I'm like, okay, that's not my thing.
Again, because you step out of the way because
I know it's not what I enjoy. Yep. And again, what we talked about earlier, finding people that fit within, Julie's been with us many years as well. And so talking to her over and over again, what are you liking? What part of this is good for you? Mm-hmm. And she's clear about it, and Karen and I are a little bit more like that way. We're, we have our different styles of putting things together and takes us probably a little bit longer. We're very methodical about it. Mm-hmm. But again, so cool to see how people develop and what they move into. Because again, our business model, like some of the principles and things that we started our business, they're the same. But, we're more people now. Yep. So again, more juju, more different energy. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And it is about who you're hiring, not necessarily what their talents are specifically, but who they are as an individual.
Yeah.
And so we hire for lack of a better term, we hire for personality.
Yeah.
And are you teachable? Right?
Yeah.
And so there needs to be an educational element to it or some form of baseline that you can start from. And we normally can assess that pretty quickly on a portfolio review or whatever. And it's not even so much like how great are your photos. It's more along the lines of, do you get what you're trying to do type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then, so once you pass that, because that's a very easy interview process, then you get into tell me more about yourself and what makes you tick. So we actually experienced our January, February, March markets were significantly different from previous years on account of no snow. And so instead of the snow being the holdup for the spring market to start, it started prematurely in a good way early, where I think that the total available volume this year is just going to get spread out a bit more, and we're going to see less of a peak in May, June versus what we've seen last year compared to January, February, March.
Oh, well,
That's my.
So as in more balanced.
Yes. I mean, this is obviously,
when it doesn't happen, I'm calling you.
Optimistic approach, right?
But we
But
would love balance this year.
so Max and I had this conversation, my business coach,
Our business coach.
our business coach, that's right. Yeah. We had this conversation years ago, and the theory that he had posited was, do you think that there's an identifiable quantity of listings that are going to by default come on the market this year? Because people turn the calendar over. They're like, I'm selling this year. I don't know when, but I'm selling this year. And so that's their goal, right? Because of a life trajectory, right?
Yeah.
My kid's graduating, or my youngest is graduating, or we're downsizing, or we're finally ready to, quit the job or retire or whatever. So like there's those momentous life decisions that happen, and this year is going to be that year. So the theory is, if you go into a year knowing that this year is going to be a selling year for you, the question becomes, if it's all clustered in that, little brick wall of April to June, right, where we have all this volume and not enough people because we also have to keep them employed the remainder of the year.
Right.
Would an extended market effect just simply spread it out, or would it actually allow for more volume to occur?
Oof.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I love it.
Right? Right? So my hope for 2024 is that because of the early start to the spring market, it's going to lessen the effect of the peakest of the peaks, of the peakiest of the peaks, rather.
I don't know. We're getting pretty peaky right now.
Oh, we are.
We're
I agree.
We certainly are, but I feel like how we've started, it makes sense exactly where your projection is going. It really does.
That's my thought.
And our calendar right now is actually somewhat set.
Yep.
Through the end of May, which
wow.
is.
Can I have some of that?
Which is, I think, what you're talking about. Yeah. I think you mentioned that if I'm selling, I'm selling this year. Yep. So I've sort of put that in a process.
Correct.
And I think we're seeing a little bit of that already.
A line in the sand has been drawn. Yeah. Where you're like, okay, it's go time at some point.
We might not know the exact
correct
staging date.
Yep.
But we certainly have this.
The details will work themselves out over time, but the intent is, the intent is there, right? Yes. And it really is that mind switch where you're like, now I'm ready.
And who knows why? I mean, we'll never predict.
No.
Even with a crystal ball, we still will not have it all lined up.
No,
I think, people that own these really large homes, and like you said, life changes happen, and then they're like, okay, we're going to downsize, but they're going to buy something out of state that might be,
which is a
less
very
expensive.
Popular thing. Yeah,
right.
Very popular thing.
So they're selling these giant homes that, younger buyers are interested in for their growing families. And they're just, not waiting for things to shift. It's been like, I don't know, like constant now for several years. It's just such, real estate is in such demand.
It is. And it's not slowing down. It's not going to. Right. Construction obviously boomed as a result of the lack of availability of homes, which is a double-edged sword, obviously, because with development also comes a little bit more population and sprawl in areas that have otherwise enjoyed quietude.
Yeah.
So the guy who lives way up in Maine.
No, I'm not against it at all.
Yeah, growth has to happen.
It does. That's the thing, and you need to embrace that growth because otherwise you're going to be forever fighting something that you can't really battle.
I 100% believe in that. I really do think that, the trajectory is always to kind of move forward and make things. So a home that's deteriorating, if it gets torn down and something bigger gets put up, is that what I wanted? Maybe not, but is that what the future needs?
Probably.
Very problematic.
That is just so Liz's jam too. Like she's always about moving forward, embracing what is,
riding the waves.
Yeah. And she just, personally and professionally does that. I love that about you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, it is what it is. There's no point in, I tend to be the person who's like, what's going on here?
Really?
I get into
I think
See, that's where you and I diverge, I think.
I think questioning is fair.
I want to know the history of it. Like, where did it begin? How did it change? And then I analyze everything. I definitely do. I'd like to believe get up to speed, but it takes me like, I need to see the line.
Okay.
Of how it changed when it changed.
You need to make sense of it.
Yes.
Okay,
that's
fair.
exactly right.
I can onboard with that for the most part. I don't necessarily need to make sense of the changes that are occurring so much as I need to understand where they're heading. And that's where I embrace change the most, is that I try to somewhat reasonably predict the behavior in the future in regards to the pattern that's emerging, right? That's where I thrive. I really enjoy that kind of stuff because it allows me to put my brain to good use instead of worrying about.
So this is where a little bit more the same. I mean, we share the same birthday.
Yes,
we have a little bit.
That's right. It's coming.
Less than 1 month away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, we're probably gonna be launching this just around that week anyway.
Cool.
Well, happy birthday to you both.
Oh.
I never forget Jeremy's birthday because I know Liz's.
Right.
So
And my cousin in Italy.
Oh, really?
it's crazy.
So it's a family thing.
It is. Yeah. But again, this feeling of just letting things happen. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a professional at it. I try my best to embrace future because I feel like that's helping me. I feel like if
You can't
whatever's
fight it.
if it's surrounding me, if that's in my community, then I get to enjoy it.
Correct.
Versus I don't look at it got taken away. I look at what's the better picture.
It's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
And you're
Which is
choosing-
what we do. So it's interesting. It's what all of us do, right?
Yep.
Where you're taking a photo to the house might not be the ultimate property, but in fact, it's something that we're allowing someone to look at and appreciate.
Correct.
Which is what we do in our art.
Yes.
Where the bones of this property
Seeking the advantages.
is really great. It might need a little bit of something,
Right.
but by dressing it up, by shifting one space just a little bit, we've now made it that much more comfortable.
Don't let perfection be the enemy of success. Yep. Agreed. And if we try to inject ourselves and our way of living or our desires to the point where it actually jams up progress from happening, we have to really question our intent. Is that an ego thing? Or is that because there's really something intrinsically wrong that you're trying to help stop from happening?
Or are you
right?
simply scared?
Correct, right? And sometimes that could also be rolled into an ego thing, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, might default to the resistance of change, not because change is bad, but because they don't know how to handle that new change, right? And I think from a business perspective, if it's one thing that we can guarantee, especially in the real estate world, is that things will always be changing.
Always.
And if we're not also doing the same, or at least responding to it in the best sense, then we're going to be forever trying to catch up.
I think that's why we're still as successful as we are, is because of our flexibility.
It's good.
I think that, one day the color is green and the next
Color of
season
the
it's
year.
and
Yeah.
the next
It's not.
and then it's
Yeah.
not, right? And so it's like, well, we just invested money in XYZ and now we need to
Or we were ahead of the curve.
or
And we purchased these things and we're like, we're not using them. And
Yeah.
then
And
then
all
we're
of a
like,
sudden it
okay,
lights
we're
up like a
going to
tree.
donate them or whatever. And then I'm like, wow, I wish we had those green chairs.
Right? Oh no!
Yeah,
oh,
it does
man.
happen.
That's some self
But
kicking
again,
right there.
yeah, but
no,
again,
but see,
and
honestly,
it's always like,
and that's
well,
just it. We're not married to our furniture.
we have room, we have room for something new. know?
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the warehouse is evolving continuously.
No kidding. Yeah.
So, what is on the horizon for 2024 for you guys? Do you have a perspective yet that you've kind of shaped?
So again, a lot of it has to do what we've been talking about today. For me, is just again, when you give birth to something like a little business and then it grows and grows and grows, is just again, stepping outside myself and allowing all these incredible people we've attracted to step up and be in front of me. I don't need to be that same person all the time coming in and controlling all little aspects because I'm just a nut about it, in a good way. But I'm enjoying that piece of it. I'm really looking forward to that.
Good. All right. So. That's excellent. That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah, from
really
me,
encouraging
right?
to hear.
It is, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's so interesting because I think that maybe Jen might have years ago been thinking about increasing profits or something else, where now I'm sort of in that thought process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And trying to find ways that you can plug holes or create
holes,
yeah.
create more things that we might not have thought of.
Right. Opportunity.
Yeah. And listening to our community of people, what's needed out there. Like somebody told me years ago, it might have even been you, like if you keep getting asked for something, then you need to, it's a message that you need to tweak your service offerings and things, if people continuously ask you for things.
Yep.
So, again, it's like breathing, stopping, listening.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And that's
hard. It's hard because sometimes what people are asking for might be outside your comfort zone, or it might actually call into question an entire process.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't really think about that, right? And so one of the popular things that we got asked for quite a bit of time was social media videos, specifically vertically oriented, short form video, a minute to a minute and a half. And it took us a while to not only nail down how to do it and the price points and all that kind of stuff, but also convince ourselves that it was a permanent enough request to justify, quote unquote, becoming a primary product. And, it's not that we fought against it. It's that we weren't making room. We weren't making space for it. Yeah. We weren't creating a hole.
Yeah.
And so by not doing that, and that's largely my doing, it took a little bit longer than it ought to have to emerge into the market.
Well, again,
right?
I think you were being true to yourself because you were already saying, this is what we produce. This is what we do.
And so there is an element of that where you're trying to stay the course of what you are really great doing.
Right.
And so sometimes learning a new role or learning a new product or understanding what's being asked for does require you to step outside your comfort zone, not only in what you do on a daily basis, but it also has you rework the capacity of what it is that you're doing on a daily basis so that you're not making space for it from a product standpoint, but making emotional space and mental space inside of you on how to adapt to that new product now.
So maybe like developing a really list of succinct questions that you're asking yourself for every scenario is helpful, right? The first being, what am I enjoying? What's being asked of me? What will be more profitable? All these things,
What's the value
exactly.
of what it is that I'm offering here, right? And a lot, the value isn't necessarily a monetary consideration as much as it is a total consideration of of your involvement, the client's involvement, how that relationship's working, whether or not it fits your schedule, your timelines, whether or not it's scalable with employees. Because if I need to do something personally that I can't readily teach somebody else, that might be something that I just simply say no to.
Yeah, all of those.
Or no
really
for now.
charge a lot for it, right? Like you have to really think about that stuff.
All of those literally equal value to us.
Correct.
Not the money part.
Yeah. Yep. And so that conversation though, right, is a really important one with especially new clients who might not align with that, right? Yeah. And so those are all necessary, uncomfortable, but very important things to do on a daily basis. So what about you? 2024. What's 2024 horizon stuff?
I have, as I said,
sky's the limit, Lizzie.
Sky's the limit. Yeah. Yeah. I think I do feel that way this year.
Okay. All right.
So,
so your horizon is the moon?
Definitely in a plane. Definitely in the clouds.
Oh, she's a little travel bug. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to just be more balanced than usual.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And I'm very, very, again, as we've said, there isn't a matter of I'm not being asked how many hours did I work and how many weeks did I work and how many months. It's as long as the business is thriving, then.
What'd you bring to the table?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
And I mean, I got all night long to work on my computer.
For sure.
Doesn't have to be 9 to 5.
Nope, it does not. No, it does not.
No. So we are introducing a few more people to the team.
Good.
So I think seeing where that.
How large are you guys now? How many people?
Well, I mean,
people that work in Perfectly Placed for You. We've got, Karen and Julie. Karen and I do a lot of occupied consultation initial things. Yep. Julie, we all do everything pretty much, except for that one little piece we're talking about. Newer people. We have Maria, and we're introducing this lady, Lori.
Kate.
And Kate kind of, she was doing everything Karen and I were doing, but she has 3 little kids. And she has certification in interior design, and that's her wheelhouse. So now when we have requests for that, I never had the energy for that because I was so busy staging, and it's a different rhythm than interior design. And she loves that. So now all those clients that we had that call us back, we can have Kate work with them.
That's fantastic.
So there's that. And then Maria and Lori are newer, and they... everybody starts the same, you're in on a job, you're working in the warehouse, you're getting to see how we do things.
Yeah,
and
you
then,
need to understand the spectrum.
Exactly. And then whatever their specific gifts, talents emerge.
Yep.
And then I'm not going to just throw like somebody into a consultation without knowing how it's done. I think
that's a wonderful idea.
We had a great opportunity the other day to take Lori, with us. Karen and I happen to both be on something, and so she got to see how we consult. And Karen and I don't always agree on everything either. So, we talked through different decisions, and it was really such a fun day.
And then she came to the warehouse and sort of saw Julie and I working together. Karen and Jan also trying to decide on different parts of the pieces of inventory for a job.
Yep.
And then we also have another girl starting in May. Her role will be potentially some social media.
Okay.
And that will absolutely light a fire under me if that really happens. I'm
do it.
Really, really excited if this. Well,
you will not regret it.
Well, we'll
again,
see.
If she shows that she,
if there's interest,
that's her,
right?
Yeah, that's her thing. And I believe in putting out the energy and meeting these people. You never know who you're going to come across in any given day. And we've never, ever lacked for people that are interested in what we do. They're like, oh, I love that. That sounds like so much fun.
Sure.
Which of course we know it is. But there's a lot to it that people don't see. Even our clients don't really understand.
No.
But that's
and that's
okay. That's not their job.
That's right.
That's okay.
That's right.
We don't We don't want them to understand that. We want them to think that it's just like HGTV, right?
Well,
to a degree. To a degree, it depends, right? Because there's elements of what you do that you can't really.
I'm kidding.
But I think for the edification of our listeners, I think that we should probably step through that real quick.
Yeah.
Because that's a good talking point. Because the value that somebody brings isn't necessarily in what you see. It's a lot of times in what you don't see. And how
many times do we say that?
The less.
So you're really great at interviewing your clients or review, having them give you a review after. And we have had face-to-face conversations with key clients of different types.
Sure.
And we are like, what do we bring to you? What's our value? Yeah. And always you're very easy to work with.
Yeah.
And I don't need to worry about that piece. I know it's going to happen. I know my walls aren't going to be messed up. I know and so they enjoy a seamless experience.
Correct.
And that's what we strive for every time.
They just want it done.
Right.
On time, on the budget that was quoted, on the expectations that were set forth. They just want it done with people who are happy to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
how much more basic can we get than that? You know,
and again, like it all goes back to what we talked about earlier, setting expectations. And, you know, it's funny, our agreement has evolved over the years.
I can only imagine.
It's like crazy things have happened. But, you know, and they're like, what? Somebody will say, well, why is that in there? Well,
I got a story for you.
It did happen. So, you know, again, setting that level of expectation. So whether they understand how complex our process is, you know, sometimes it just needs to be detailed a little for them. You know, like they'll be like, well, we're thinking maybe we want, you know, a bunch of this type of chair in there or whatever it is, you know, and we've selected everything for a reason. And it's not easily just changed out like that. Yep. So, you know, just kind of explaining, hey, it does take between 5 and 8 hours in that warehouse, making sure we pick every little thing that goes
intentionally.
It's not
you're not just coming to the first piece of furniture and be like, take that.
Yeah, no.
And then there's taking care of it. There's wrapping it, and there's, you know, getting it ready for transport and transport. The steps are
making sure, you know, and I think, you know, it was fun to watch Laurie watch all of that yesterday because, you know, we've got like Julie and Karen too. They've kind of developed this process, and I'm always like the dunce because I've done this so long all in my head that they're like, well, we need to write that down and we need to take a picture of that because what if, you know, they're so funny. Like, what if you,
I see how this goes.
What if I stepped out of the picture and I didn't know, I knew I wanted this, this vignette, this grouping. And they're like,
if you're storing it up here, it's not scalable.
Exactly. So that's me, you know, I'm always 10 steps ahead because I've been doing it that way for years, but they're so great at saying, okay, no. We have all these boards in the warehouse for each room.
When I first started with Jan, I had a notebook. And so we'd go to the job and my role was at the end of the day to literally write every single thing down that was in that house. Yeah. She would in the warehouse know without looking in the book. Yeah. Where's the yellow sofa? Whatever, right? Oh, I know. It's at such and such a street. I'm like, okay.
You had a Rolodex.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, because of where we are today, the process is even more evolved. It's not about the notebook anymore, right? Yep. It's an app. And it's available for everybody to look at. Sure.
Yeah. What if I'm suddenly not available to execute? Then the whole team knows what's going to happen.
Hey, Jan, where's the sofa?
Right. Are you barcoding?
We are not.
Okay.
No, we're not. But we're pictures, easy.
Names and stuff. Is that what you're working with? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, and we have, you know, catalogs.
We have lookbooks, catalogs.
Good. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys didn't have any of that
nope.
back when we first met, and probably not even before COVID, I'm guessing.
Medium.
You were in flux at that point?
Again, Julie has ship-shaped us.
I think Julie just doesn't sleep at night. I think she lays in bed going, okay, how can we do that and do it a little differently?
we know when they're in deep, when we find out that they woke up and thought about something, we get a text.
It's like 7:30, 7 o'clock.
I can't tell you, especially as we've navigated the new business next level. There's been those midnight aha moments where it's just kind of just sitting up there. And, you know, the seed is germinating and all of a sudden it's like, ping. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. And then I'll text it. I'll text it to Jen normally. And then in the morning, we'll talk about it. Yep. And then after we've done talking about it, it'll eventually get to the team once the idea has become concrete enough for us to, you know, bat around a little bit without it just falling apart, you know? And so it's a good system.
I think so too.
But that's good. That means that not only does she care, right, Julie?
Oh my God, you can't.
It means that she potentially exceptionally enjoys it, right?
Yes.
Now, obviously, if it gets to the point where it becomes an obsession, there's obviously some, you know, diminishing considerations there and whatever. But
I think we'd know by now there's going to be a problem. It's just great, and I love that. You know, we celebrate each other for our good points. You know, everyone loves my singing in the warehouse. You know,
we absolutely love your singing.
Snippets of songs, you know, that come into my head.
Yeah.
we have a good time. We do. Yeah.
We're not going to sing right now, though.
No.
Okay.
No. I don't think it's been requested. So I'm in control of it right now.
Our audio engineer
What was it?
has a different opinion.
What was it? Lori was saying her, it was somewhere that in the song just popped in my head and it wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of.
because her son's going to Australia.
I forget the song I was
do
singing.
too.
But anyway,
Yes.
No, it was not a Men at Work song.
Okay.
No, it was, I forget what it was. And
I thought it
I kept
was.
humming the tune and then I let it, I was like, all right, I'm stopping everyone. I'm stopping. And then, a few minutes later I was kind of whistling or something.
So
and
if this-
Lori just started laughing.
If this
She's like,
happens to me when I'm with Jen, I'll turn the
she'll
radio
turn the
on,
radio on
or
and go,
I'll
all
find
right.
music
And I'll
somewhere.
go, all right.
You're like,
I'm
get this out of my head.
changing the channel.
Yeah.
I'm changing the channel.
Yeah, they say to get it out of your head, you need to just switch the song or have the song play and then move on to the next, and then your brain will get off.
I don't know.
An
But if you see us in Home
earworm,
Goods
right?
or
Is that what
Market
they call it?
Basket,
Is that what-
An
yeah.
earworm.
we're dancing and singing if we're in Home Goods or Market Basket.
And everybody knows when I'm happy if I'm like that. They're like, oh, there she is. There she goes again. They know I've slept. It's like usually when I sleep.
Slept peacefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not always, but I take it when I can get it.
Yeah.
But I love meeting our movers in the morning, and I'm like, how are the best movers in the world? We love Rob Barnaby and his crew, and they're so great. And they all have their little things that they'll do. Like, his guy Troy will put something in a room, and I'm like, let your inner designer out, Troy. Where do you think that chair should go?
But Troy's actually really good.
He's good.
He
He's
really
really
is.
good. He's like, or they're like, oh, I really love this architectural feature of this. These
Nice.
guys they're the best movers. They really are. They're so.
Barnaby and Sons.
Nope.
Barnaby's Moving and Storage.
Barnaby's
It's Rob Barnaby is the owner.
All right.
We've known Rob forever. He used to work with another company,
Yep.
and then he started his own. And we are so happy to be part of his journey. I mean, again, the way you met us, we love him. It's like
Watching him grow, watching his family grow, like literally. It's
Yeah.
just
There's a lot of wholesomeness in there.
yeah. We want him to succeed as much as we want the next person to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's important, right? And in industry, it's very easy to take on the cutthroat kind of role where I got to have it all kind of thing, especially if you're really involved in the whole hustle mindset. But the thing about it is that it's such the half-life to that is so quick where you have to either drink that Kool-Aid and continue pounding it back, or you need to kind of like hit the reset button and say, why am I doing what I'm doing?
I was just in Italy in February, and the city where my family lives, everything is so close by, right? So when you go to buy your pharmacy stuff, when you go buy your meats, when you go buy your cheeses, you go buy your groceries, whatever it is, there's this familiar family feeling where you are happy to be there.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And how I think we're growing kind of just the size that we need to be without feeling as though we need to get to the next spot.
Sure.
No, I was going to say next
Next
level.
level, yeah. But so what you're talking about is again reinforcing the value of those relationships and that feeling of community.
Well, I mean, I came home really feeling like I'm who I'm supposed to be.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's a really peaceful thing to be able to feel.
I also think that we've reached a point in our lives too. We have this really good friend who always says, this is your life. When you started your life, okay, you had this much time. Yep. Now you have this much time.
Yep.
What is it that you want to do?
Yep.
Like I think it's incredible. Like you have such a young family that you're able to focus and do all those things. Because when my kids were younger, I was just making it happen.
Yep.
It wasn't. But I'm going to be 60 this year, so I'm really just kind of all of a sudden loving that new perspective.
Sure.
And Laurent and I are starting to plan our life.
Yep.
And we're not. as we talked about, we're not like hyper focused on how our kids are doing, what they're doing. We're there for them, but they're their own people. They're making their own choices, and that's
a very
the way
excellent
it's supposed
thing.
to be.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. Because if you just try to continue being a puppeteer, you only end up disabling them from becoming themselves.
Right. And we reminisce together about when they were little. Sure. And we love that.
Yep. Memories are wonderful things.
They are. They're great. But, they're doing their thing now.
Correct.
And I feel like Liz's kids are my kids too. I love watching them do their thing and get their promotions. And, Marco's a physical therapist. I mean, we call him Dr. Marco. It's so cool. And that's really sweet. And I think it is helping me do what I talked about earlier, really pick and choose instead of just going out there in every different direction, Yep.
It's wonderful to be involved in different seasons, as it were. Yeah. So,
but you're young. You've got a lot going on, and you're able to do that.
We do.
That's cool.
We do. I'm turning 43 in a month, and
I wouldn't have guessed, Jeremy.
Yeah, right.
You're looking fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. But Jen and I have really focused on family life in a way that is, what is it that we desire to put forth for an example for our children? Because what we had been doing, it wasn't really the long-term example that we really wanted them to see. It was, of course, the hustle. It was just, just the drive, go.
Do you think that your business helped you do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Had I been working a 9-to-5, I think that I would have just simply gotten into the every day is like the other.
I totally see that.
So, and I think that might just be a personality fit for me versus somebody else. Because that's not to say that 9-to-5 jobs are bad, right? It's just to say that for me, it wasn't a fit.
Oh, I could tell that about you the second I met you. I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
My motivations exceed somebody's ability to feed me.
Yeah. Well, I also think the conversations change today. Like we allow ourselves to talk about. Before there was always this, like, are you going to be a mom or are you going to be
a business
person? Yeah. And there was this real hard. I'm never not going to be a mom. Yeah. But I still want to continue this. I want to try to continue working.
There's this huge gap
and see where it goes. No one was really given that opportunity to see where it goes. Agreed. It was always this like demand of be the same person.
Yep.
Right. And I think that what we're seeing in you and Rob Barnaby and our own kids is that we're giving them the structure to grow, but to still do something that feels better for them.
Yep.
And again, we keep circling back and circling back. I mean, somehow we've reached this really cool place where we feel that how we feel makes a difference.
Yep. Your joy will show through in everything that you do. And if you find fulfillment in what you're doing and you're taking it home and you're a happier person because of what you're doing, and therefore your home life is happier because of that, so therefore your work life is happier because your home life is happier, like that's just, it just completely continually
I know how silly this sounds all the time, but I mean, I talk about my coffee experience, and it really is a coffee experience.
It's religious for Liz. She's like...
It really is.
Tell me more.
I mean, just the whole way it's presented to me, or I'm presenting it to myself.
Okay.
So I mean, I could pour myself a coffee, I could run out the door, and I might have that moment while I'm in the car and be able to enjoy it. I really might.
It's not the same.
But it's not.
Right.
If I give myself time to either go to the coffee shop that I admire, that I respect, and they're asking me how my day is, that makes my coffee taste that much better.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's a lot like Asian cultures and the importance of the tea ceremonies, right? And they it's not that they find tea to be sacred; it's the ceremony that's sacred. And the whole idea is that appreciation and that gifting and the receiving, and the
way it's packaged,
the mindfulness right there, right? That's all part of the why.
Yes.
And it's perfectly placed for you. It's
ever since I've known
the
Liz,
package.
She's always talked about wanting a little shop that you can get coffee at and it sells purses or bags. Like those are just two of her favorite things in the world. Sure. And I'm like, hey, you never know. It could be in her future. She's still talking about it. Yes, accessories. That's right. Yep. And coffee. And you know, it's, I think
now
about your mom.
I'm just going to go to Italy and do it.
I think about Bridget. Yeah. Because every afternoon, her mom passed last year, and we loved her so much. So she, every afternoon, would have a cup of coffee, but it was like an instant coffee. Yeah. And I always get the brand wrong. Sanka? No, what was it? Nescafe. I always get it wrong. Nescafe, yeah. I'm like, so I'll call her up and I'll be like, hey, what are you having? And I'll say Sanka because it's wrong. I'll go, are you having your like Sanka moment? What's going on? You know, and it's funny, but it's something that's ingrained in you from the time you were little. And it's something that she always did. It's very, you know, a ritual. Yep. Yeah. A celebration, a mini celebration. Yeah. I love that. I think that's cool.
Yeah. What are yours?
I got to think about that for a second.
Taking care of your house, designing your house.
Oh, yeah. There isn't a square inch of that house that I haven't messed with. I always think of myself like my dad. My dad was like a great builder on his own. That wasn't his profession, but you know, there'd be like 6 pieces of scrap wood and my dad would make something out of it. And I'm not the actual carpenter, but I'm sure I drive all the handy people in my life crazy. I'm like, could you just build me? My latest thing right now is Laurent of all people is like, we need new furniture. And I'm like, okay, well, that could happen.
You know a person.
And I know a person. Yeah. So, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, we don't usually use the little dining section in my house. And I'm like, but I don't really want a dining table, but I do want the option. So, you know, I thought about ways to.
This is new. What's happening?
I was thinking.
Is it like a Murphy bed for a dining table?
You know, I'm all into the Murphy bed, sort of in a way. You know, so I was like, all right, how could I design this? Because I looked online about what I wanted. You know, I wanted something that could be a coffee table, but change heights. And so they have a few that they almost look like steampunk, you know, you crank it up or whatever. Sure. I wasn't.
Not your style.
So I was like, okay, if I got, you know, a tabletop, I would want to do like the acrylic. You know, you've seen the cutting boards where it looks like the ocean or whatever. I'd like to do an acrylic top. And I think I could order 2 different heights of foldable hairpin legs. And then secure the hairpin underneath with whatever the height is, the height I'm not using, with a little plastic clip.
Yeah.
So.
And where's this going?
Where the dining space is, because I don't use it as a dining space. I would and then I would buy.
Oh, so it would be regular height dining table and higher. Excellent.
And no, coffee table, dining height.
Coffee table.
Because I like a lounging space, and I don't use that space enough. So I would like to buy.
Right.
Oh, that's where we can have
what
coffee.
What is that, like from an 18 to a 30
18
or something
to a 30,
like that? Yeah,
correct.
Okay. It could be the coffee wine table.
I got that on the nose.
Perfect,
wow, all
Jeremy.
right, not too bad.
Yeah, so I think it's a great design, and I think
you heard it here first.
I think it would be cost effective.
Let's make it
a cost effective thing. I know, but so you know, I'm going to drive our favorite handy guy, insane, because I'm going to make him, you know, have him attach everything. I won't be doing that part. I'll just. So, and my friend Kathy and Steve, they've been experimenting with epoxies lately. So I think that would be.
I know an epoxy person.
That's awesome.
But you could do it yourself. Yeah, that's fun.
I love it.
I do too.
I love it. No, you just got yourself lost in a moment right there.
I know. That's the real me.
That's where she dreams right there.
But that's it, right? Yeah. And so that's your coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that's probably
definitely. Totally.
Well, I've had a wonderful time just catching up with you guys and talking shop, talking honestly life health, you know, right? Like, you know, just from a larger perspective and how that's all going for you guys. And you know, we've grown together for a considerable amount of time, and it's been a real blessing being able to identify with your different perspectives, and I'm a little bit of you, I'm a little bit of you, and I'm a lot bit of me. Yeah. And so it's really nice to be able to have those kinds of conversations, and I've always valued them. So thank you. Thank you so much,
Jeremy, for having us. We love you.
I love you too.
Yeah.
I love you too.
Yeah, we really do. Yeah. The last thing I will say, I love when we do a staging job, and maybe I haven't seen it from the whole like beginning to end, but I see a lot of it when those pictures come into my inbox. Oh my God.
Christmas morning.
It makes me appreciate it
Sure.
100 times more.
Well,
I'm like,
and we have all the befores too, so you can look and just say.
no, but I mean, it really is like, it's that final moment of like, yes, we really did it.
It's the finished product.
But it just makes it I'm not talking about we did a great job. It's all those pieces that just, again, we came back together. It's like, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
Yeah. I love it. I love that day.
You can put your stamp on the bottom and be like, case closed.
Yeah. And I love my close-ups.
It's good.
Love them.
Oh yeah, the vignettes.
I do.
Yeah.
I love them.
The Medora photography vignettes.
Yep.
Love it.
And we enjoy taking them. And honestly, it's actually been
I've noticed.
it's been a part of some of our default offering for realtors,
noticed.
where sometimes we go a little hog wild, but if we
They're
incorporate
fun, right? They're fun.
3 to 5 of them on a per house basis, it really kind of galvanizes the lifestyle experience.
It captures that feeling, the emotion, right?
Yeah, and we really it resonates with us so much.
I know.
Like we see that shot and we're like, oh my God,
And you
they
get
get
giddy.
us.
Yeah.
They get us.
Well, and it's people that are living a chaotic life maybe at the time, and then they go in and they're looking for their next step, their dream level home or their next chapter, and then we're able to kind of calm everybody
Slow 'em
down and take a look. And again, Liz always says that your business and our business is like peanut butter and jelly.
It is.
We go together.
It is.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
love it.
Without what it is that you guys do, we wouldn't be able to do as good of a job as we do. So
There's some really good stages out there.
There
I
are.
know.
there are.
Yeah.
There are. And we are really proud to be considered a partner with not just you guys, but
Yeah.
a lot of staging companies in the
Yeah.
area. And there's a mutual benefit there. So
I agree.
So thanks again for coming
you.
on. And let's circle back in a little while.
See where we're at?
See where we're at.
Yeah.
Because I'd love
Yeah.
to see how your 2024
Oh, that'd be fun.
visions
Yeah.
Year
shaped
in
up.
review.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the plan. That's the
Okay,
plan.
I
'Cause
love it.
We're going to run out of guests eventually, right? And the truth of the matter is, what better way to show progress than to go back and reflect on the previous episode that we recorded them?
All right. We'll see you next year.
Absolutely. Thanks, ladies.
Okay.
All right.